I saw some people ranking the films, and when I say ranking, this isn't from best to worst. No, this is from shitty to even shittier. So let's make it clear. None of these movies are good. None of these movies are something that I would put on willingly or something that I would ever want to watch ever again. But we're going to rank them because they are a set of films that do exist and they are kind of sort of maybe connected. They got the Iron Spider suit. Wow. There are 6 films, so starting the list off at number 6, Venom: The Last Stand. This is the least bad, in my opinion, compared to the other films. And the reason why I put this movie here is because by this point, there had already been 3 Venom movies. So I already know what to expect when it comes to how Sony decided to portray Venom and Eddie Brock and Tom Hardy. Like, this is nothing new. This is not surprising. It's still all bad, and the jokes, the comedy, if you want to call it that, is still very bad. But I knew what it was going to be. I knew what I was getting myself into. Sure, some decent action, and the action is probably the only thing that I'm willing to give this movie a pass on. I actually did not mind some of the scenes of Eddie Brock interacting with the hippie family. As random and as unnecessary as it was the only like semi-human element that was added to the films. But yeah, you have the lame-ass villain. You have Null, who just sits in a chair and doesn't do anything, and I don't trust Sony to someday, one day, take this villain and make him some big bad. Like, come on. Come on. What are we talking about? And they try to have this emotional gut punch of the symbiote dying at the end, right? But nobody really buys it. We all either think that Venom will someday, one day come back. Or if it is it, nobody really cares. That's the problem. Number 5, the first Venom movie. In fact, I wanted to put this even higher because the first Venom film, even though I had seen the trailers, even though I had somewhat of an idea that Sony was going to fuck it up, I didn't realize they were going to fuck it up this much, given Tom Hardy being a great actor and how much he just sort of went along with the dumb shit, the dumb aspects of this character, how goofy and silly it was, how Tom Hardy himself is the one that does the voice of the symbiote Venom. And so it's a lot of the shitty dialogue, the shitty comedy, the bad material that they just constantly try to hit you over the head and almost gaslight you into thinking, no, this is funny. This is you who is not having fun, who doesn't have some sort of sense of humor. Yeah, sure, whatever. Riz Ahmed, who I felt like around this time was on the come up, doing a lot of great smaller films. And of course, he's the main villain here. And he sucked. He sucked, at least in this movie. Michelle Williams, great actress, Oscar-winning actress. They cast her as the girlfriend or ex-girlfriend to Eddie Brock, and somehow she looked terrible as well. Even the idea of her becoming Lady Venom was not enough for me to be happy that she was in this film. I still can't get over the end scene when Michelle Williams says to Tom Hardy, "I am sorry that Venom died." Just her saying that particular line gets me every single time. Number 4, Morbius. Ugh, the Jared Leto shittiness strikes yet again. I'm surprised that this movie is this low, honestly, because it's bad. But compared to the other movies, especially the other movies that are yet to be named, this at least had more potential to stand on its own. Morbius, I always thought, even though I grew up on the 90s show, Spider-Man show, even though I have been introduced to Morbius through Spider-Man in the past, and also like Blade's connection. You could all make this work if you put in the work and if you wanted to and try to. But I also kind of see the appeal of, because he's a vampire, maybe splitting him off and doing his own thing because it's more supernatural. It doesn't have to be superhero if you don't want to play it in that way. You can go more horror if you want. But they didn't do that. They still had your Spider-Man references, even though Spider-Man's not here, but I'm talking about the Daily Bugle and whatnot. And you still tried to make this more superhero with how Morbius gets his powers when he does become a vampire, but he just treats it as if it's superpowers. They didn't take this in the direction that they could have. It wasn't rated R like another movie on this list. It didn't try to push the envelope. Jared Leto, for as good as he was in Dallas Buyers Club when he won the Oscar, he has pretty much failed every time to impress me or to show me something ever since. All these big movies that he ends up doing, it's just a fail. and Sony themselves not realizing the joke that we were all making fun of this movie. It's Morbin time. They actually thought that people loved this movie, and they re-released it and saw that it bombed again, twice. And that's when they realized, oh, we fucked up. We don't really know or understand what the audience actually wants. I feel bad for Matt Smith as well. He's probably the only thing that's somewhat watchable in this movie because he just doesn't give a fuck. That one scene where he's dancing, I still just have that scene in my brain because I can't believe that happened in a real movie. Also, another reason why I wish I had this almost at number one is the post-credit scene. The post-credit scene for Morbius is one of the worst things I think I've ever seen in a superhero film. Just as far as the convolutedness, the fact that it doesn't make any sense at all, the fact that it's trying to glom onto and connect itself to one of my favorite Marvel movies, Spider-Man No Way Home. And when you see the sky open up with the purple and you see Michael Keaton, poor Michael Keaton, his Vulture character show up from that universe into this universe. It's just, there's so much wrong with that. There's so much going on with it. The director trying to defend this on Twitter that weekend too. Like, never mind saying, hey guys, we fucked up, or hey guys, we didn't realize what you wanted or how the Doctor Strange powers actually work, the spell. No, we're going to try to make you think that it makes sense. It doesn't make sense. All of this is stupid. The Vulture meeting Michael Morbius and talking about Spider-Man when Morbius doesn't know who Spider-Man is. They're still desperately, Sony is, still desperately trying to make the Sinister Six happen. It's not going to happen, Sony. Number 3, Kraven the Hunter. I almost had this in an earlier number, but an earlier spot, but it just, no, it's bad. Don't get me wrong. It's at this spot for a reason. Between Aaron Taylor Johnson, between Russell Crowe, between a lot of these actors just looking awful, looking terrible, looking like they've never been in a movie before, looking like they don't know what acting is, what the definition of it is, looking like they are sort of just speedballing this script. Hell, maybe this script is so half-assed that's why it comes across that way. What else were they going to do? And that actress, man, Ariana DeBose, I don't know what happened here. I saw some articles talking about how her mouth might have been CGI'd and like deep faked just to change out dialogue. I knew that it looked weird and I knew that her voice sounded off, but I didn't realize that Sony went that much to fuck her up. If I was her and her agent, I would be pissed. I would sue Sony for damn near ruining this girl's career. Fuck. This is terrible. And how about the cheapness? This movie cost $150 million, so it technically wasn't cheap. It just looked cheap. The costumes looked cheap. A lot of the action and CG looked cheap. And also, the Rhino. Oh, fuck. I see people on Twitter actually trying to defend, what did you guys expect a man becoming Rhino to look like? You could have either had him in a suit, or you could have had this. And it's like, well, yeah, how about we don't do this? How about we don't do the worst option of the two? Yes, put him in a suit. Even if it's not the 90s giant man in a rhino costume, if you think that's silly, I still would argue that wouldn't be as silly as what you gave us. But even the Paul Giamatti mech tech suit. I would still have taken that or something along those lines. You could have done a variation of it to combine those elements. You can't tell me that making Rhino a mutant was the best option here. Get the fuck out of here. People are defending this. Maybe it's burner accounts from Sony executives who are trying to make people think it's not as bad as we thought, but this is bad, man. Even Chameleon, who, yes, technically the design of Chameleon when he becomes Chameleon is comic accurate. I agree. But it's the execution of it. It's how they present or the lack thereof presentation and explanation of Chameleon's powers, how he gets his powers. Oh yeah, I just went to a doctor in New York. Wait, what? Who's this doctor? Oh, he's Dr. the Jackal. Okay, sure. They don't explain anything. They don't let modern audiences who don't know comic book deep cut stuff to really understand what the fuck's going on. They just present you things and expect you to think it looks cool because it's Marvel. Fuck that, man. We've come too far. It's 2024. We should not be making these same exact mistakes again. All right, we've done too much here. Number 2, Venom Let There Be Carnage. I had to bump this up my list because I was reminded when I was doing my research and re-going through these movies, this movie fucking sucks. As bad as I disliked the first Venom, as much as I was disappointed because Venom used to be my favorite Spider-Man villain, he is no longer that anymore. These movies have ruined him for me. As much as I was disappointed by that first movie, I actually thought, like an idiot, maybe they'll course correct. Maybe they'll go more serious, more dark. The main villain is Carnage, for God's sakes. And Woody Harrelson is a good actor. Like, they had the ingredients to make something dark, to make something actually worthwhile. But no, they double down on the goofy. They double down on the stupid jokes and just the stupid shit. The bickering, the slapstick stuff of Eddie Brock and Venom is so insufferable, so hard to watch, so rough, especially for the beginning of this and just them beating each other up in the apartment. I can't believe somebody thought, Avi Arad thought, Amy Pascal thought this was the direct way to go, the right way to go. I hate this movie. I hate it with a passion. I hate what they did to Venom. I hate that they had Venom go to a rave and he's walking around with glow sticks around his neck. I hate that Carnage was ruined. Cletus Cassidy, I thought, was one of the coolest and scariest Spider-Man villains when I was a kid. Fuck that. He sucks now. I hate that they brought in this actress to play Screech or Shriek, Screech, whatever the hell her name is. They ruined her because she's a great actress, but you'd never know it watching this piece of shit. They, for some reason, brought back Michelle Williams because, yeah, that relationship dynamic worked. And then the post-credit scene, you want to talk about horrible post-credit scenes that try to ruin Marvel MCU. Them connecting Venom into the MCU, having him come in and see Tom Holland Spider-Man on the TV. People actually got excited for that bullshit. And I was the only one that felt like in the theater who said out loud, no, I don't want this Venom. I don't want this Venom interacting with Spider-Man. I don't want this Venom a part of the MCU. And thankfully, Feige was smart enough to get him the fuck out of there immediately, as soon as possible. But for the number 1 worst Sony Spider-Man-less film, it's Madam Web. There's no dramatic pause. There's no drum roll. I don't have to get too much into this because I've talked about Madam Web so many times. How awful it is, how terrible it is, how slabbed together this is, just on a technical level, on a filmmaking level. The voice dubbing for the main villain, it's so mind-boggling that somebody saw this in the editing room and thought it was okay to have the camera pretty much on this actor's face, this poor actor's face who plays Ezekiel Sims. And he's talking, but his mouth is not matching the dialogue at all. I don't know what happened there. I don't know what happened. It's so amateur. It's so piss poor. I know this isn't the most expensive Marvel movie that Sony has made, but there's still no excuse. I've seen movies for $5 made and directed and edited better than this bullshit. Also, Dakota Johnson, I know I've given her slack before from the 50 Shades of Grey movies saying she's not that great of an actress, but I've since warmed up on her because I've seen her in other movies. I've seen her be good. And also in interviews, she comes across as a pretty nice, genuine person. And her honesty about this movie, her honesty on her knowing this movie sucks, her honesty on her not realizing that this is not a part of Marvel proper, I will always defend Dakota Johnson and love her for the fact that she knows she fucked up. So I'm not going to beat her up more than everyone else probably already has. The filmmaking of how they present her powers and her seeing the future and this shitty Final Destination style that they try to take this in, which probably could have been interesting if it was done well. But you have other actors wasted in here, like Mike Epps. Man, what a fucking waste Mike Epps was. Adam Scott, who is trying his goddamn best to play a young Uncle Ben. And also Emma Roberts, who I love the idea of Emma Roberts playing Peter Parker's mother. Like, if you had done this well, that could have been something interesting. But she's only here for like 2 or 3 scenes and then nothing. Like, maybe they paid her well, because how else? Why else did she agree to do something like this? The other 3 girls, by the way, there's so much wrong with this and how these girls are presented, how annoying they all are, how dumb they all are. The scene where they go to the diner and start dancing on top of the table in front of the boys when they're wanted and they're trying to stay low and hide from the villain who wants to kill them. It's just so much is wrong with this movie. The third act with the fireworks and the Pepsi sign and the way that Dakota Johnson gets blind. Holy fuck. I can go on and on for days. This movie. Fuck this movie. Fuck all of these movies. And fuck Sony. Fuck Avi Arad. Fuck Amy Pascal. Please. I probably shouldn't say this because I just fucked the entire studio. But hire me if you want some good Marvel films, Sony. I swear I can do this. The budgets won't be high. They will still be good enough that fans will be happy. They will make money. I swear I have the plan. I've made videos in the past talking about what Sony could do. This ain't it. And whatever you're probably going to do, unless you talk to me, won't be it either. So guys, let me know in the comments below what you think of my list and what is your list, your rankings of the worst Sony Spider-Man-less films. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later.